boost your English.
From English Podcast with John.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast with John.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? We're so happy to be here with you. Today, we're exploring how to organize your life and boost productivity using English. We'll guide you step by step with plenty of real-life examples, all while making your English practice simple, relaxed, and enjoyable. And welcome back to the show. I am feeling so ready for this topic today. I mean, organization is something I'm a little bit obsessed with.
I can tell. You're always so on top of things.
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you. And yeah, I am so excited to get into this. It's one of those topics that seems simple, but it has such a deep impact, especially when you bring language learning into it.
It really does. I'm feeling great and just, buzzing with ideas to share. And on that note, before we really jump in, I just want to say a quick, warm thank you to everyone listening. If you're finding these chats helpful, please do take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, it helps us so much. It really does. So thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so let's unpack this. The first thing that I think people wonder is why? Why would you intentionally add this extra layer of difficulty by using English for something like planning your day? It sounds like it would just make things harder.
It's the most logical first question, right? Because productivity is all about speed and efficiency, and adding a second language feels like putting a speed bump in the road.
Mm.
But I think of it more as intentional friction.
Intentional friction. I like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I remember years ago, my to-do list was just this mess. It was all in my native language, and it was a jumble of everything. Buy milk was right next to develop 5-year strategic plan. It created this mental swamp where nothing felt important.
I have been there. It's completely overwhelming.
Exactly. So I decided to try writing just my work priorities in English. And what I found was amazing. The act of having to stop and think, okay, what is the right English word for this task? It forced me to be more critical. I couldn't just write a vague note. I had to define the task precisely. And that simple act brought so much clarity.
That makes perfect sense. It's like you're creating a different mental space. The language you use for complaining or daydreaming is suddenly replaced by language you associate with focus and work. But did you ever feel, especially at the beginning, that it just slowed you down too much? Like you're spending 5 minutes trying to find the perfect verb instead of just doing the task?
Oh, for sure. The first couple of weeks were definitely a bit of a drag. It felt like I was, running with weights on. But that feeling of it being different work pretty quickly turned into it being less work overall.
Really? How so?
2 reasons, I think. First, it honestly gamified the boring stuff. Writing a grocery list wasn't a chore anymore. It became this mini challenge. I'd find myself looking up new verbs, just for my laundry list. Separate delicates, tumble dry low. It turned mundane tasks into little moments of language practice.
I love that. Turning chores into a game.
And the second thing was, it actually forced me to design better systems. Because I knew it would take a bit more effort to write a task in English, I became much more thoughtful about whether the task was even necessary. It made me filter out the unimportant stuff before it even hit the page. So the initial friction led to long-term efficiency.
That is such a powerful insight. It's not just about changing the words, it's about changing the entire thought process behind the task. For me, it was all about creating a psychological boundary. When I write my schedule in English, my brain it snaps into a different mode. It's work mode. It feels more detached, more professional, and honestly, it makes it so much easier to get started and avoid procrastinating.
That mental shift is everything,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a perfect place to start with our first big theme: how to organize your actual daily life with this method.
Yes, let's start with the absolute foundation, the to-do list. I am a huge believer that you should try to replace all your native language lists with English ones. But not just a simple swap. The key is to use really precise, strong English action verbs. So instead of do report, you'd write something like analyze the Q3 data or draft the executive summary.
The verb is everything. It's the engine of the task. A vague verb leads to a vague, heavy-feeling task. A precise verb gives you a clear instruction, and it just feels lighter, easier to start. I took this a step further and categorized my tasks into English groups.
Oh, tell me more about that. What kind of groups?
Well, I use a digital task manager, and instead of just urgent or not urgent, I created these more formal sounding labels. Things like urgent immediate for things that have to be done today, low priority for stuff that can wait, and my favorite follow-up for tasks that depend on someone else.
I love follow-up.
Yeah,
It's so specific.
it is. And, I have a funny story about that. Early on, I was trying to use the word prioritize all the time, but I think I was using it wrong. I'd write prioritize client emails, which, what does that even mean? It's not an action.
Right, it's a concept, not a task. So what happened?
Well, I'd stare at it and feel stuck. It took me a while to realize the actual task was reply to urgent client emails or categorize client feedback.
Yeah.
The misuse of that one English word actually highlighted a flaw in my whole process. It was a mistake, but a really useful one. It taught me that the verb has to be a physical, doable action.
That's a perfect example of how this process refines your thinking. So let me ask you about the tools you use. Do you prefer a physical planner or do you stick with digital apps? And does the language feel different depending on where you're writing it?
That's a really sharp question. I actually use both, but for different things. For my big strategic goals, I'm all digital. But for the day-to-day, I am a huge fan of physical sticky notes.
Me too. I have them everywhere.
Right. But here's the trick. I write them as specific English commands, often tied to a location. So on my coffee machine, the note might say, review daily schedule while brewing. By my desk, it says, empty the dishwasher by 5 p.m. Tying the English phrase to a physical action in a specific place makes it incredibly powerful.
I do something so similar. I use them to write down specific phrases I want to remember. Like on my monitor, I might have delegate the preparatory research. Just seeing that high-level English all day keeps me in that professional mindset. And the satisfaction of physically crumpling up a sticky note after I've completed a task written in English, it's just the best feeling.
It really is. And it's so much more satisfying than just clicking a checkbox. I took that idea and started using English labels on things on my pantry. Quinoa, lentils, whole wheat flour. It sounds silly, but it's this constant low-level reinforcement of vocabulary for food and cooking. It makes every part of my life part of the learning process.
Okay, that is brilliant. I'm stealing that one. It turns your whole house into an immersive learning environment. Let's shift a little bit to scheduling and time blocking. This is another area where English can bring so much structure. I put everything in my calendar in English using terms like deep work block or client check-in or personal admin.
Yes, standardizing the terminology is so important.
It is, and it also helps with the basics, like always using AM and PM or quarter past versus quarter to. It forces a level of precision that you might get lazy with in your own language. It just cleans everything up and makes the schedule feel more official and less negotiable.
I completely agree. And I'd add that everyone should set their digital reminders and calendar notifications to English phrases. Don't just have a bell go off. Have your phone actually say, attention, client meeting begins in 15 minutes. It turns a passive alert into an active piece of language practice.
Oh, that's a great tip.
It saved me once, actually. I had this really important international call, and the time was described to me as 30 minutes past the hour. I was in a rush and almost misunderstood it completely. But I forced myself to stop and write it down on my calendar in clear, simple English. 2:30 p.m. call with team. That simple act of translation prevented a huge mistake.
That is a terrifyingly relatable story. The cost of a small misunderstanding can be huge. But that brings up another challenge. What happens when you're just exhausted? At the end of a long day when your brain feels like mush? Do you find yourself just giving up and reverting to your native language?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Temptation is huge. Reverting is the brain's natural way of conserving energy. But I actually developed a strategy for this.
A strategy for being tired. I need this.
Well, it's a trigger phrase. When I feel that mental fatigue and I'm tempted to get lazy, I have this one little phrase I say to myself in English. It's get back on track. It sounds simple, but saying that short, sharp command out loud is like a reset button. It snaps me back into the English-speaking, organized mindset. I think everyone should find their own trigger.
I love that. A mental reset button. That's fantastic. I have a similar habit, but it's more preventative. At the start of my day, I mentally narrate my first couple of hours. I'll think to myself, in English, okay, first I am going to draft the client proposal. After that, I will transition to reviewing the project budget.
It's like a little mental warm-up that gets my brain into the right gear before I even start.
It's like you're creating a script for your day. That's a really powerful way to set your intention. And it's a great lead into our next theme, which is about moving from daily tasks to the bigger picture. Exactly. Let's talk about goal setting and reviewing. For the big stuff, like annual or quarterly goals, I find writing them entirely in English is a game changer. It forces a level of precision and commitment that's really hard to achieve otherwise.
How so?
Well, in my native language, I might write a goal like get better at my job. It's emotional and vague. But when I force myself to write it in English, I naturally lean towards a more structured framework like SMART goals. So that vague goal becomes achieve fluency in this specific area by Q4. It's specific, it's measurable, it's time-bound. It feels like a formal contract with myself.
That is the perfect way to put it, a formal contract. And that contract is only useful if you review it, which is the step everyone forgets. I do all my weekly reviews in English. It's like writing a progress report to my future self.
A progress report. I love it.
Yeah, I have a journal with headers like key accomplishments and roadblocks encountered and next action steps. I had this one goal that sounded great on paper, but when I sat down for my weekly review, I literally couldn't explain my progress in English. I didn't have the words because I hadn't taken any clear steps. The language barrier was actually a sign that the goal itself was flawed and too vague.
So the language itself becomes a diagnostic tool. That is brilliant. It's a quality check on your own goals. Okay, so this brings me to a question about self-talk. Do you use English for, positive affirmations or motivation related to your goals?
That's a great question. And yes, absolutely. I find it's actually more effective when I'm feeling stressed. My self-talk in my native language can get, well, a little anxious.
Yeah.
But my go-to English phrase for motivation is small steps lead to big victories.
Oh, I like that one.
Hearing it in English feels different. It's less emotional. It feels more like objective, rational advice from a coach or something. It helps me detach from the stress and just focus on the next small step.
I feel the exact same way. My phrase is progress, not perfection. And hearing it in English resonates so much more deeply. It doesn't feel like it's just me trying to convince myself. It feels like a universal truth. It gives it more weight.
It really does. I also use English for what they call if-then planning. It's a way to plan for problems before they happen.
Oh, like planning for a distraction.
Exactly. So I'll write down, if I finish task X by 3 p.m., then I will reward myself with a 15-minute break. Or if a non-urgent email comes in, then I will ignore it until the 4 p.m. check-in. Writing these little rules in formal English makes them feel much more official and easier to follow when you're in the moment and tempted to get distracted.
That's basically pre-organizing your discipline. It's fantastic. Okay, so last big area, our digital lives. This is where I think the biggest and easiest wins are. Organizing your digital spaces and resources in English.
Yes. The digital clutter is a productivity killer.
It's the worst. My big recommendation is to change all your computer folder names, your email labels, everything, to a consistent English system. It creates the seamless workflow, and you get so much language exposure without even trying. It becomes your default environment.
I could not agree more. I did a massive overhaul of my email a while back. I created all these filters with English labels like client correspondence, receipts, personal learning. Now almost nothing lands in my main inbox. Everything is pre-sorted. It's been life-changing. I used to open my email and feel this wave of anxiety. Now I open it and it's just calm.
Calm is the goal. But I'm curious, did you ever run into a problem where you had so many labels, all in English, that you started to get your personal and work stuff mixed up? Like, does the single language ever blur the lines?
That is a very real danger. And at first, it did. The key I found was to create a super consistent naming convention. So every single personal file or note starts with the prefix home, and every single work file starts with project. The language is the same, but that simple, consistent prefix keeps the two worlds completely separate in my mind and in my system. It's all about consistency over creativity.
Consistency is more productive than creativity. That should be on a t-shirt. That is so true for systems. I have one final, maybe silly observation about all this.
Go on.
After I reorganized my entire desktop and all my files in English, my computer it felt more professional. I know that sounds weird, but it gave me this feeling of authority and focus every time I sat down to work. It was like I'd upgraded my whole operating system, not just the folder names.
No, I get that completely. It's a sense of intentionality, isn't it? You've deliberately designed your environment for focus and success. That feeling is incredibly powerful, and it absolutely translates into better work.
It really does. You know, as we start to wrap up, I think it would be good to leave people with one or two really quick practical tips to just get started, because this can all sound like a lot at once.
Good idea.
My tip would be, don't try to organize everything all at once. That's a recipe for disaster. Just pick one small thing. Maybe it's your daily to-do list, or maybe it's just the apps on your phone's home screen, and commit to using English for just that one area for 1 week. See how it feels, build that momentum slowly.
That is the perfect way to start. My tip would be to find an English accountability partner.
Right.
He could be a friend or a colleague. And every morning, you send each other your top 3 priorities for the day, written only in English. It creates this little bit of positive pressure that ensures you practice the language and really commit to your plan for the day.
What a great idea. That combines practice and commitment perfectly. Well, this has been such a rich conversation. I feel like we could talk about this for hours. I really want to encourage everyone listening to jump into the comments and talk about how you organize your life or boost your productivity, especially using English.
Yes, please do. We'd love to hear your best productivity hacks. What are your favorite English phrases for staying motivated? Share them with us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and for spending this time with us.
It's always a pleasure. And remember that daily practice of listening and speaking in English is it's so essential for success. Try to work it into your everyday life.
We will definitely be back soon with more conversations and interesting topics to explore together. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this if you found it useful. It really helps us keep these conversations going.
Until next time, take care, everyone.
Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.